the owner of record, who in turn, as we know, sold it to the suspect who drove it right into the heart of Times Square. Now, this is deja vu, because the World Trade Center attack in 1993 had a similar set of facts, where a detective was able to get the VIN number off the Ryder truck that had exploded there. And if you recall, the bombers were arrested when they returned to get their deposit. But there would have been no engine block to examine if it wasn't for the heroic work of the New York City bomb squad detectives. It was a very hot evening. They suited up in a very oppressive gear, which I'm sure everyone saw, and they worked tirelessly through that evening, all through the next day. So if you look at the components, the timer, the gasoline cans, the M88s, the propane tank, the gun box, you put all of that together, that lethal assembly really made a very big hurt locker. And it wasn't until all of the parts of the bomb were taken down that we were able to tow that vehicle to a forensic garage. Now, by my calculation, from the time Faisal Shahzad drove into and across Broadway and parked that vehicle to when he was apprehended last evening at the JFK airport, it was 53 hours and 20 minutes. Now, we know that Jack Bauer can do it in 24 minutes. But in the real world, 53 is a pretty good number. So I want to congratulate everyone who had a role in this very important investigation, and really the fact that it was done in record time. And true, we can breathe easier, but we always have to be vigilant, because in the eyes of terrorists, New York is America, and they want to come back to kill us. Thank you.
I'll take any questions that you might have.
Mr. Attorney General, you said that the suspect's providing useful information. Can you tell us whether he's provided any clarity as to whether he acted alone or acted in concert with others? Has he implicated anybody else?
Well, the investigation is ongoing, and I wouldn't want to reveal at this point any of the information that we've gleaned from him, other than to say that he has been talking to us and providing us with useful information.
Has he admitted involvement in this?
He has done that.
There are reports that there have been arrests in Pakistan related to this incident. Is that correct? If so, how many? And do you anticipate further arrests in this country?
Well, as I said, the investigation is ongoing, and our aim is to determine who exactly was involved in this matter, to bring all those people who are involved to justice. I'm not aware of what the exact situation is with regard to the facts you've talked about in Pakistan.
No, you're not aware of any arrests in Pakistan at this point?
I've heard reports about that. I'm not in a position to confirm that.
South Park theory still on the table, or is that gone? Motivated by the cartoon?
As I said, the investigation is ongoing. I wouldn't want to talk about what we have, where we are with regard to that at this point.
How was he able to still get on the plane and have the plane depart from the gate when he was placed on the no-fly list?
I don't want to get into details of timing and no-fly, but the way he was apprehended was that particularly since Christmas, CBP has been instituting a number of rules that enable us to further check against new data or information that is provided, even very recent information, against passenger manifests on planes. And they have been working, as you might imagine, around the clock on this one. And so as new data was supplied over the course of the investigation yesterday, they were able to match it once the plane manifest was complete, go on the plane and arrest him.
Madam Secretary, are you saying that if this had happened before Christmas, that plane may have taken off?
No, I'm not saying that, Mike. What I'm saying is that in this particular case, some of the new rules were particularly useful in allowing us to arrest him before the plane took off.
Mr. Attorney General, can I ask you a question now? There are some local reports in Colorado suggesting that this case may be related to the Zazi case. There might be some connections there. Have you found any of that? And there was talk about his extensive travel, Mr. Shahzad's extensive travel overseas. Are you guys looking into whether he may have had some sort of military training or contacts with known terrorists?
Well, we're examining a whole variety of things in connection with the questions that are being put to him and the questions that he is answering. We want to know as much as we can about his background, where he's gone, what he's done, and so all of those things are being explored.
What about the Zazi case?
I don't have any, no comment on that, but I don't have any basis to believe, at least at this point, that there's any connection between them.
General Holder.
Do you believe the suspect came to the U.S. with the intent of doing this?
I wouldn't want to comment on that. As I said, the investigation is ongoing, and we'll need to continue our interaction with him.
Was the suspect under surveillance, and did there come a point when he dropped off the radar yesterday?
I can address that. Well, the number of individuals have come up in this investigation, and Mr. Shahzad was one that we identified as somebody that we would like to find out more information about. So during the course of the investigation from Saturday night, we identified him as a person that we would like to talk to. We were able to locate him away from his house, which you saw in the news, Bridgeport, Connecticut there. And then we were able to provide that information, as the Secretary mentioned, to CBP for proper handling and other agencies in case he was stopped in another context. The bottom line was we were able to identify, locate, and then detain Mr. Shahzad.
Just one quick follow-up. In terms of the travel of people to Pakistan and to other areas where known terrorists are known to congregate, can someone talk about how the U.S. government is attempting to track those types of people and what more can be done in that regard when they return to the United States?
Well, I can just comment from the FBI's perspective, and part of the interagency, there are a number of steps that are taken to identify potential terrorists. Whether that's the country from which they originate in terms of terrorist training camps or the individuals they associate with. And obviously to go into detail, which might get into sources and methods of how those individuals might be identified, would not be appropriate in this.
We understand that when he returned from Pakistan, he underwent some kind of secondary screening after his last trip, and that contributed in some way to his arrest. Why was he screened when he came back, and what was learned?
Without getting into a lot of detail, he was screened when he came back because some of the targeting rules applied. He was subjected to secondary screening. He is a naturalized U.S. citizen, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
You've given us a diagram of the bomb itself. Looking at this, what is your professional assessment? Is this an example of somebody who's had bomb-making training, or is this kind of winging it?
There are a number of opinions on that. You've heard most of them, I think. It does not appear, from our opinion, to be the most sophisticated device. There are a number of opportunities for the device to fail. There are actually 3 different components that could have been operational, but as was noted, certain portions such as the M88s ignited, but not the main charges of either the gasoline or the propane tank. So,
is that more aspirational than operational, as someone once said?
Well, he clearly had the intent to do harm. It's a question of whether his training and knowledge and the material that he had, to the point of the fertilizer, the initial assessment is that it was probably not a sufficient grade to cause the type of explosion such as we saw, obviously, the ammonium nitrate and fuel oil at Oklahoma City. So clearly not that contents.
How long was he questioned under the public safety exception to Miranda? And if maybe the Attorney General or somebody can walk us through the decision to terminate that, and who made that decision and why?
From the FBI perspective, we won't go into detail in terms of how long. That's obviously a significant issue right now. Suffice to say that he provided valuable information and intelligence and evidence during that time. And then, as the Attorney General noted, he was Mirandized later and continued to cooperate and provide valuable information.
Attorney General, how close were you to losing him?
Well, I think obviously there's high confidence in CBP and their ability to do the job. They went beyond what I think most people would expect in terms of just checking. Is that what you were asking?
How close were you to losing him? And I think you mentioned earlier that you had identified him by Saturday night. Is that correct? That early?
No. Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Attorney General Holder.
Well, could you answer the question about how close you were to losing him?
I'm not sure to what you're referring.
How close were you to losing him when he was on that flight?
No,
once he was, they pulled him off. They pulled the flight back, as you know, to the gate. They also had the authority, if the flight had actually taken off, to order the plane to turn around and come back.
I was here all yesterday and through much of last night, and was aware of the tracking that was going on, and I was never in any fear that we were in danger of losing him.
Could you